Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I hope all of you are safe and sound. So today we will study lines from an essay on criticism. So first of all, before proceeding, you will make correction in your books because in your books it's written an essay in criticism. Okay, so it's an essay on criticism, all right, which is a poem, which is a long poem, but we will study few lines which have been taken from that poem, an essay on criticism, and written by Alexander Pope. So let's get started. So the timeline is given 1688 to 1744. So Alexander Pope has written this poem, an essay on criticism. It is poem, okay? Don't forget that. So we will study lines from an essay on criticism. So few lines have been taken from that poem. Okay, now as usual, just like first I give you a brief introduction of the poet. So he was born in London, the most brilliant and influential poet of his age. So as far as that period is concerned and from to which he belonged, for example, I keep on mentioning that there are different ages in the history of English literature, like Middle Ages, the Renaissance, Romantic period, Victorian age or Victorian period. So as far as Alexander Pope is concerned, he belongs to the neoclassical period. Okay? So he was the most brilliant and influential poet of his age. His essay on criticism was published in 1711. So this poem, Essay on Criticism, it was published in 1711. His magnum opus means masterpiece, is The Rape of the Lock. So Alexander Pope has written this work, The Rape of the Lock, which is regarded as or which is considered as his magnum opus. Magnum opus means masterpiece. And yes, the last point is use of heroic couplet. Now what is heroic couplet? Let me explain it to you on the next slide. So you should note down these three important terms with you: heroic couplet, blank verse, free verse, because they are related to poetry and they can come in MCQs in your paper, section A, MCQs. So heroic couplet is rhymed iambic pentameter. I have already explained in detail when I was teaching you meter and types of meter or kinds of meter. There was one of them, iambic. Okay, so what is heroic couplet? Rhymed iambic pentameter. Meter would be iambic and the lines would be rhyming. Okay, for example, by or high. So the end words of two lines are by, high. So they are rhyming. So if the lines are rhyming and the meter is iambic, then that would be called heroic couplet. So an MCQ can come like this. What is heroic couplet? So you will select this one, rhymed iambic pentameter. Okay, two lines would be rhyming and the meter would be iambic. Then blank verse. What is blank verse? It is opposite of heroic couplet. Blank verse means unrhymed iambic pentameter. Lines would not rhyme. Okay, but the meter would be iambic pentameter. Then free verse. You can remember or you can memorize by this word free. Without proper meter and rhyme. The verse is free. No rhyme, no meter. Okay, so I hope you will not forget these terms. What is heroic couplet? Rhymed iambic pentameter. What is blank verse? Unrhymed iambic pentameter. And what is free verse? Without any meter and rhyme. It's free. Okay, so this was the general discussion which I wanted to uh, discuss with you, these three important terms related to poetry. Now, back to this poem, lines from an essay on criticism. Now, what is the central idea or theme of this poem? While writing poetry, we must keep in mind that the words used in poetry must be appropriate to the situation. So, choice of words, diction, it should be according to the situation. If the poet is describing any pleasant experience or feelings, then the words should be pleasant, soft, sweet. And if the poet wants to describe any horrible, terrible situation, then the words should be harsh, rough. Okay? So there should be this harmony or balance between situation and choice of words. All right? Okay. So, in this poem, the poet tells about craftsmanship of poetry. Craftsmanship, art, skill of writing poetry, particularly about the control of pace. We must not use rough verse while writing about a gentle thing or situation. In the same way, we must not use light words while writing about a fierce situation. So, as I have already said, if a poet writes about any pleasant thing, any beautiful thing, then the choice of words would be pleasant, sweet, soft. And if a poet writes about any terrible, fearful, or horrible situation, then the words should be rough, harsh. Okay? So, in this poem, Alexander Pope tells us about this art, this talent, or this skill of writing poetry. That how to write poetry, how to control that pace. You see, rise and fall. All right, so this was some additional information about this poem. Now, words and meanings. Number one, offense. Offense means displeasure. Zephyr. In Greek mythology, Zephyrus was the god of the west wind. Okay, then numbers. Numbers here stand for, you can say, metrical feet or verses, meter. Okay, numbers. When you will come across this word numbers in the poem, so you should keep this in your mind that this word means, or this word stands for, meter, metrical feet. You have already studied syllable, foot, meter. Okay. Surges. Surges means rising waves. Okay. So, what is Greek mythology? You can say ancient stories and myths which were told by Greeks in the past. Okay, so from that we have this term Greek mythology. So it was Zephyr was the god of the west wind. All right, so you will come across different names, different terms, and they are from Greek mythology. And what is Greek mythology? Different stories and myths told by ancient Greeks. Okay, next, now you see three other names taken from Greek mythology. Okay, so first one is Ajax, one of the Greek heroes in Homer's Iliad. So, one thing you should know, Homer was a Greek poet, very famous. Okay, and another one was Virgil, he was Roman. Homer was Greek and Virgil was Roman. So, Ajax, he is one of the Greek heroes mentioned in Homer's poem, you can say, or work, Iliad. Iliad is the name of Homer's work, which he has written. Then Camilla, legendary huntress and maiden warrior who is mentioned in Virgil's epic, the Aeneid. Now, Homer was a Greek poet and Virgil was Roman. And Virgil's epic, you know, it's a kind of poetry, type of poetry. So, the Aeneid, this is the name of epic poem. So, Ajax mentioned in Homer's poetry or this work, Iliad. And Camilla, she was a huntress and warrior, and she is mentioned in Virgil's, who was a poet, Virgil's work, the Aeneid. Okay, so simply you should know that these names have been taken from different mythologies and specifically Greek mythology. And then, last one, Timotheus. He was a Greek poet and musician. All right? Okay, girls, now kindly open your books in front of you. Lines from an essay on criticism by Alexander Pope. It would be an essay on criticism. Kindly correct it in your books. Okay, so let me read out these lines for you and then I will explain. True ease in writing comes from art, not chance, as those move easiest who have learned to dance. This not enough, no harshness gives offense. The sound must seem an echo to the sense. So, true ease in writing comes from art, not chance. True ease means flow. In writing comes from art. Art, natural talent, creativity, ability. So, the fluency in poetry or writing, this flow, it comes from creativity, natural talent, not by chance, as those move easiest who have learned to dance. So, just like those who know dancing, they move very swiftly as compared to those who are unaware of this art of dancing. So, this art, it is related or connected to natural talent, ability, creativity. So, the poet says that this fluency in writing comes when one knows the art of writing poetry. It doesn't come by chance. Just like those who know dancing, this art, they move more swiftly as compared to those who are unaware of this art. Okay? This not enough, no harshness gives offense. Offense, displeasure. It is not enough. So, it is not enough that there is no harshness in the poetry. Or if there is no harshness in the poetry, then it's not enough for the poetry. The sound must seem an echo to the sense. The sound, the words, must be an echo to the sense. The words of poetry, they must be according to the situation or experience which the poet wants to describe. If he wants to describe a pleasant situation, the words should be pleasant. If the poet wants to describe any terrible, horrible, and harsh situation, then the words he uses, they must be harsh and rough. So the words should be the echo of the situation. All right? Soft is the strain when zephyr gently blows, west wind. Okay, here Zephyr, god of west wind, so it actually refers to the west wind which blows. So, soft is the strain when zephyr gently blows. So, when the poet describes the west wind which blows very gently, so the use of words, it should also be gentle. I mean, the words should be gentle, light, and soft. Why? Because they give this expression that the wind is blowing gently. So, how do you come to know that the wind is blowing gently? Of course, after reading those words in the poetry. After reading those words, you will get to know, okay, fine. It means that the wind is blowing gently. So, choice of words, it is very important. So, first, the poet says that words, they must be the echo of their meaning. So, they can easily be understood by the readers. And then he says that when the poet wants to describe that the west wind is blowing gently, so he must use soft and light words Why? Because these words give the expression that the wind is blowing gently. So this choice of words and use of words, the words are very important. All right? Okay. And the smooth stream in smoother numbers flows. Numbers, I have already told you, here numbers, they stand for verses, meter, metrical feet. Okay? So, and the smooth stream in smoother numbers flows. And if the stream is flowing very smoothly, then the words, they should also move in a flow very smoothly. So, when we describe stream, we must use very smooth and flowing words. Why? In order to indicate that the stream is flowing very smoothly. Okay, so just like stream, it flows it flows very smoothly. So our words should also move smoothly, just like the situation which we want to describe as a writer. Okay, so if the poet wants to describe this situation, that there is a stream which is flowing very smoothly, so the words of the poet should also flow very smoothly, just like that stream. So it means that there should be a balance and harmony between words and situation. If situation is smooth, pleasant, soft and light, then the words, they should also be gentle, soft, light and smooth. I hope you are getting me. Next. But when loud surges lash the sounding shore, surges, rising waves, lash the sounding shore, strike the sounding shore, shore, seashore. The hoarse, rough verses, hoarse, harsh. Rough verses should like the torrent roar, torrent, storm, flood, roar, outburst, scream, loud voice, loud sound. Okay, so but when loud surges lash the sounding shore, now here this situation or this scenario of sea is described, that when those rising waves, when they strike the seashore, so the sound which is produced is very loud, very violent, very harsh. So in order to describe this situation, the words should also be harsh and violent. So, what is the meaning of these two lines? That when we want to describe stream which is flowing very smoothly, we must use smooth and flowing words to indicate or to suggest that the stream is flowing smoothly. But on the other hand, if we are describing the rough sea, the words we use, they must be rough and harsh. Why? In order to indicate that the sea is rough. So, if you want to describe a pleasant and smooth situation, use pleasant and smooth words. If you want to describe harsh, violent situation, then use violent and harsh words. That's it. Okay? So you should know, girls, that this use of word verses, verses, of course, they are found in poetry. In normal grammatical structure or in prose, we have lines. You see, but usually in poetry we say verses. Why? Because verse is a metrical composition. There is a proper rhyme scheme. There is a meter. So that's why we say verses of poetry. Okay. So verses means lines in poetry, use of words in poetry, or meter. Okay, all right. Next, when Ajax strives some rocks vast weight to throw. Ajax, I have told you, one of the Greek heroes, strives, working hard to do something, effort. Okay, when Ajax strives some rocks vast weight to throw. So, in the same way, if the point wants to describe, or if we want to describe that Ajax, who lifted a heavy rock to throw, so the words must move slowly to show the movement of Ajax. So, of course, when somebody is lifting up the heavy rock, so the movement is very slow. gradually and slowly you lift up the rock. So just like that, the words, they or the lines, they should also move very slowly and gradually. There should be a weight on these lines. They should be heavily stressed. Heavily stressed means that there should be more emphasis on those lines. So whatever is the situation, the words, they must be in harmony with the situation. Okay? So just imagine somebody is lifting up the rock with a lot of effort and hard work. And of course, that movement is very slow and it happens very gradually. Then, and if you want to describe that situation in poetry, then your lines should also move slowly. There should be a lot of weight in those lines. Those lines must be heavily stressed. Stress when you put emphasis. So you should put emphasis on those lines so that they should move very slowly. Okay. The line too labors and the words move slow. So, when Ajax strives some rocks vast weight to throw, the line too labors and the words move slow. So, just like that person, on specifically Ajax, who is mentioned here, when he lifted that heavy rock to throw, that movement was very slow. So, just like that, same like that, the lines and the words in the poetry, they should also move slow. Okay? Not so when swift Camilla scours the plain. So, we must not do so while describing Camilla's, who was a huntress and warrior. Fine. And she moves very rapidly over the plains and fields and mountains, flies over the unbending corn, and skims along the main. Skims to pass very quickly, to pass swiftly along the main. The main here means sea. So, who flies over the unbending mountains and bumps very swiftly, very quickly. She passes very swiftly and very quickly along the sea. So her movements are very rapid, very quick. So, in order to describe this fastness of Camilla, we must use words which move very fastly in order to indicate the speed with which Camilla she moved. Okay? So, when we want to describe that slow movement of Ajax lifting up a heavy rock, the words should be, or the words or the lines, they should move slowly. And if we want to describe the swiftness, the quickness of Camilla, who was a huntress, who was a warrior, and she passes very rapidly over the plains and fields and mountains, so our words, they should also move very swiftly, very quickly. Why? In order to indicate the speed of Camilla with which she moved, with which she flies. Okay? So, just like Camilla moves or passes swiftly over the sea, over the mountains, over the fields, so just like that, our lines and words, they should also move very quickly and swiftly in poetry. I hope it's clear now. Next. Here, how Timotheus varied Lay's surprise, and bid alternate passions fall and rise. Timotheus, I have told you, he was a Greek poet and musician. Okay, so here, listen to it, how Timotheus varied Lay's surprise. Varied Lay's surprise means varied songs, different compositions, different beats, and bid alternate passions fall and rise. And for each passion and emotion, there was a separate beat. For happiness, the beat was very loud, high. For sadness, the beat was very slow, down. So, just like that, we should listen to the songs and compositions of Timotheus, who was a poet and musician, and we should listen to his different songs and beats. Why? Because he used different beat for different passions and emotions. For happiness, he used high beat. For sadness and grief, in order to indicate or express sadness and grief, he used very low beat. All right? So, it means that we must use proper words in proper place, just like Timotheus, who was a Greek poet and musician, just like he used proper beat for proper emotion, proper feelings. All right? So, this was your poem, rather few lines which have been taken from an essay on criticism by Alexander Pope. So if you do not understand anything, you may ask me. Now on page number 41 in your books, girls, there are these 2-3 paragraphs. So let me tell you the crux, or rather you should note down these points with you. Number one, you should know that as far as Alexander Pope is concerned, he belongs to that time when the more importance and significance was given to external form and style of poetry. More than the spirit or central idea or theme of poetry, the focus was more on form, style. All right? Number two, there is this elegance in his poetry. His poetry is refined, and he also used heroic couplet. And I told you what is heroic couplet. Heroic couplet is rhymed iambic pentameter. Two lines, they are rhyming, okay? Just like chance, dance. You see, rhyming words. And if you could see the first two lines in your book, last two words, you see, chance, dance. So the lines are rhyming. So rhymed and iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter means 10 syllables and 5 feet. I have already explained it in detail. And why iambic? Because first syllable is unstressed and second is stressed. So we will read it out like this. True ease. Now the stress is more on ease. So true is unstressed and ease is stressed. So this is iambic. Rhymed. Why? Because these two words are rhyming. Chance, dance. So rhymed. Iambic. Why iambic? True ease. So the emphasis is on ease. So true is unstressed and ease is stressed. So it is iambic. And pentameter, why pentameter? Because penta stands for 5. So there are 5 feet and 10 syllables because each foot has 2 syllables. So number one, you should write within that. Number one, you should write heroic couplet means rhymed iambic pentameter. For example, if you could see the first two lines of this poem, the last two words, they are rhyming. They have same sound. Chance, dance. So it means rhymed. Now, iambic. How iambic? Because true is unstressed and ease is stressed. You will read it out like this. True ease. You see, ease, there is a lot of stress on ease. So that's why it's iambic. And why pentameter? Penta means 5. So 5 feet and 10 syllables. Finally, rhymed iambic pentameter, which means heroic couplet. Okay? So you should note down these points with you. And if you do not understand anything, then you may ask me in the WhatsApp group. Thank you, girls.